Coming up, stupid and offensive, the findings of a report into a Midlands MP who organised a Nazi-themed party.
Football pundit Stan Collymore urges Twitter to take action after he's bombarded with racist abuse.
And how to avoid tea time tantrums. We've got some tips. That's at 6. Stupid and offensive, the findings of a report into a Midlands MP who held a Nazi-themed stag party. That's coming up. This is ITV News Central. On our programme tonight, a report finds an MP who organised a Nazi-themed stag party was stupid and offensive.
Former Aston Villa player Stan Collymore urges Twitter to take action after being bombarded with racist abuse.
I'm a big guy that genuinely can look after myself, but it is quite disconcerting when something pops up saying, "I'm serious, I'm going to murder you."
Is your child a fussy eater? How to avoid tantrums at mealtimes.
And a lifetime of memories left in a shoebox at a charity shop. But do you know whose story they tell?
Good evening. Offensive and foolish, but not racist. The conclusions tonight of a report into the actions of Cannock Chase Tory MP Aidan Burley, who organised a Nazi-themed stag party for his best friend. He was sacked from his job as a government aide, but is still a Member of Parliament.
The stag party in a French ski resort in 2011 was captured on camera by a Sunday newspaper. Mr. Burley has always insisted he meant no offence and now wants to put the matter behind him. Our political correspondent Alison McKenzie reports.
Cannock Chase MP Aidan Burley, here circled, had bought the SS uniform for the man wearing it on his right, his best friend who was due to get married. The stag party was said to be raucous. It included chanting and a toast to the Third Reich. After the pictures were published in a Sunday newspaper, there was outrage and an investigation by the Conservative Party. The report concluded that Aidan Burley's conduct at the stag party had caused deep offence. It added he'd acted in an unacceptable way. But it says Aidan Burley is not a bad man. He's not a racist or an anti-Semite. The conclusion, his actions that night had been stupid. But the report's findings do not impress the neighbouring Labour MP for Dudley North, Ian Austin.
I think defeating fascism and securing the world's freedom is the greatest achievement Britain's ever had, and I think his behaviour doesn't just bring shame on himself, I think it undermines, if I'm honest, what it means to be British.
In a statement, the Conservative Party say what the MP did was wrong. It's why he was removed from his post as a government aide 2 years ago. This is not the first time Aidan Burley has caused offence. He tweeted during the opening ceremony of the 2012 London Olympics, questioning the left-wing propaganda, as he saw it, of the opening ceremony.
You know, if it had remained non-political, then it would have been a truly wonderful opening ceremony. And I think it is sad that towards the end we had Shami Chakrabarti from the left-wing campaigning organisation Liberty carrying the flag. Given the offence caused at the Nazi stag party, should he still be an MP?
I think a man in his position ought to be a little bit more, think about what he's doing and how he's seen, what light he's seen in. That's what I think.
You do look to people, if they put themselves into public office, you expect them to, show a level of responsibility.
It's not very good for the area, really, his antics.
There's been no interview available with Aidan Burley today on camera. He's always said he's very sorry for what happened and he wants to put the matter behind him. Alison McKenzie, ITV News, Westminster.
A pensioner from West Bromwich who sexually assaulted girls as young as 5 over a period of 45 years has been jailed. Eric Griffiths from Hallam Street assaulted girls in his home and at a chapel in the town where he worked as a caretaker. The 84-year-old was sentenced to 4 years in prison and was ordered to sign the sex offenders register for the rest of his life.
A driver has died at Toyota's factory in Derbyshire after being trapped between two lorries. The 56-year-old, who's not believed to be from the county, was injured at the plant in Burley early this morning. Police say they don't think the death is suspicious. In a statement, Toyota said they extended their condolences to the driver's family and friends.
Former Aston Villa footballer Stan Collymore has accused Twitter of not doing enough to stop abusive tweets after he was targeted by internet trolls.
The sports pundit was allegedly sent a series of hate threats and racist tweets after he suggested Liverpool striker Luis Suarez cheated by diving during an Aston Villa match. Staffordshire police have confirmed they are investigating. Victoria Davis reports.
It was on Saturday when Stan Collymore took to Twitter to suggest Liverpool striker Luis Suarez cheated by diving in a match against Aston Villa. What followed was a torrent of hate messages.
There's been death threats and quite simply some of the most incredible racist abuse that I've ever seen. I'm a big guy that genuinely can look after myself, but it is quite disconcerting when something pops up saying, "I'm serious, I'm going to murder you."
The former footballer, who's played for Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest and Leicester, said the abuse was worse than he's ever experienced on a football pitch. He's now demanding Twitter takes action against internet trolls.
We live in the United Kingdom and we have certain laws to protect people, to protect everybody, and that's all I'm asking Twitter to be responsible about. In 15 years' time, if nothing's going to be done, it's going to be the norm to be able to abuse people under the hashtag or inverted commas banter. It's not banter, it's abuse and it's illegal.
Stan Collymore, who lives in Cannock, has now seen Staffordshire police 5 times. Although they are investigating, they admit Twitter abuse can be difficult to police, as it relies on cooperation with the company to release information on users.
We do share frustrations around the lack of time that sometimes it takes to get information. We have been again in touch with Twitter today, and we've escalated it to them and also to national colleagues so that we can get the necessary information that we need.
When ITV News Central asked Twitter for a response, the company said it was unable to comment on individual users, but said targeted abuse was against its rules and had made it easier for users to report abusive messages to them. But the sports pundit claims it's an American company hiding behind American laws and says it's about time they took responsibility. Victoria Davis, ITV News.
Sikhs from the Midlands have joined human rights campaigners in London to urge the Prime Minister for full disclosure of Britain's involvement in a raid on the Golden Temple of Amritsar in India 30 years ago.
They say they want to know the truth after government papers appeared to suggest British officials had advised India on the planning of the raid. Rajiv Popat reports.
Desperate for answers, desperate for the truth, Sikhs from across the Midlands travelled to Westminster today to urge their MPs to help them establish exactly what happened 30 years ago when troops in India stormed the Golden Temple, their holiest shrine.
We'd want a thorough inquiry.
Internal British government documents appeared to suggest the SAS had been sent to India to help with the planning.
First thing that we want is full disclosure of all the documents relevant to this, because without that there won't be confidence in the process. Also, it needs to be transparent. There shouldn't be a case of party politics being placed before the interests of the truth.
If it transpires that the British government had colluded with the Indian authorities, could that damage relations with the Sikh community?
Absolutely. So there will have to be a system where we look at why that help was given, because the attack on the Golden Temple was a crime against humanity.
Today, Sikhs delivered a letter to the Prime Minister calling for a clear response to suggestions of an SAS link, joined by human rights activists and Phil Miller, the journalist who uncovered the documents when he went to the National Archives looking for information on British Special Forces in Sri Lanka.
I came across these files about the SAS advising the Indian government on a possible raid on the Golden Temple in Amritsar.
What was your reaction when you read that, when you found out?
Well, at first, I mean, I was surprised to see these covert operations happening in another South Asian country, not just in Sri Lanka.
400 people died during the raid, but many dispute this and say thousands were killed. There were protests in Birmingham and throughout the country. Jagdish Singh has travelled from Coventry with a group of friends to be here. Tell me why it's so important for you to be here.
Thousands and thousands of people lost their lives in 1984. We owe it to those tens of thousands of victims to get the full truth on this.
The Foreign Office said David Cameron has asked the Cabinet Secretary to look into the case urgently and establish the facts. Sikhs say the ghost of 1984 has arisen. They want simple answers to simple questions to find out exactly what happened. Rajiv Poppert, ITV News, Downing Street.
Nicolas Anelka has called on the Football Association to drop a charge against him over his controversial goal celebration. The West Brom striker is facing a minimum 5-match ban after performing a salute known as a quenelle after scoring a goal. The Frenchman pointed out on his Facebook page that a leader of the Jewish community in France said his actions weren't anti-Semitic.
Anti-HS2 campaigners have lost their latest battle to stop it being built. They went to the Supreme Court, claiming the government's actions were contrary to EU law.
Technically, it's the end of the line for protesters as far as the UK courts go, but they say the fight is not over. Well, Wesley Smith has been monitoring court proceedings, so is this the green light then for HS2?
Perhaps an amber one.
Right.
Lucy, I think really the Supreme Court really is the last court of appeal in the UK. Previous bids had been rejected by the Court of Appeal and the High Court. Now this time it was up to 7 judges to rule on whether or not the government had failed to take European environmental laws properly into account in a bid to push through the project. This is how Lord Reid delivered the verdict.
It is argued that members of Parliament will not apply an independent mind to the issues, since votes in the House of Commons are likely to be subject to the whip, and members of the government can be expected to vote in accordance with their collective responsibility. In these circumstances, it is argued, the parliamentary procedure will fail to comply with the requirements of the directive. The further appeal to this court is unanimously dismissed.
HS2 Limited now says that ruling means they're on course to start construction in 2017.
And remind us, Wes, about the route and why it is proving so controversial.
Well, the plan, of course, is for it to move from London to Birmingham, where, of course, the business community thinks it's a fantastic idea. It would be a real boost to the local economy, they say. But others are, of course, strongly against it. Now, Phase 1, which was dealt with today, would see trains cutting through the Warwickshire countryside at 225 miles an hour. Phase 2 would eventually bring the swift route from the Midlands to the north, but not without major disruption in Staffordshire, where it wouldn't even pick up passengers. Well, that's prompted protests all along the proposed route. Understandably, people against HS2 are disappointed by today's ruling, and they vow to fight on.
Well, obviously we're disappointed because it didn't go our way, but this is not the end of the road for us. I mean, the Supreme Court decision gave a very restrictive interpretation to EU environmental law. So the next step for us is to take it to Europe, because we believe that they got it wrong.
Well, the HS2 Action Alliance were joined in the challenge by a number of environmental groups who believed they had the evidence the government had got it wrong. So we asked the Transport Minister to explain what she was doing about the environmental impact of HS2.
We're taking many measures to try and mitigate the environmental impact. I mean, by the time you look at 53 kilometres of tunnels, 73 kilometres of cuttings, 4 million new trees, linking up habitat, all of that is important, but big infrastructures infrastructure does have an impact on the environment. The importance is the project and the benefits that it brings have to be weighed against that.
Of course, the cost of HS2 is still a big issue. Estimates put it at £50 billion. But just the other day, the London Mayor, Boris Johnson, said it would be nearer £70 billion. The bill to take the anti-campaign to Europe will also cost. The HS2 Action Alliance told me they're already getting together to see how much they need to raise before their campaign either hits the buffers or sees HS2 derailed for good.
Thank you very much, Wesley. Thank you for the update. Still to come here on ITV News Central, the hospice shoebox donation with World War I photos. But who do they belong to?
The latest unemployment figures are out. They show that jobless figures for the West Midlands fell by 32,000 between September and November. The Office for National Statistics said a total of 220,000 people were without a job in that period.
Well, yesterday we featured a company that makes parts for Formula One racing cars. The boss there said even though he was desperate to recruit new staff, he just couldn't get the quality of worker that he needed.
So jobs are out there, but not being filled. What's the solution? Our business correspondent Mark Goff has been to see a charity which last year found jobs for 2,000 people. One was so good they've taken him on to help other people find work.
There was good news today from Wilmot Dixon, which is building Birmingham City University's new campus. They're taking on 200 more people for their construction sites around the Midlands. And this charity in Walsall has had huge success over the years, finding jobs for people who've been out of work for a long time. They help the unemployed with training, interview coaching and CV writing. And they've done well.
We help about 2 a week get a job over the last year. But as an organisation, we helped over 2,000 people get a job last year. One of probably the most unusual we've ever had is a young lady that came into us about 2 years ago who wanted to be an embalmer. And you don't find many embalmers around, but we got her a job as an embalmer. We put your CV forward for it.
Yeah. David Danks was out of work for 3.5 years when he came to them to find a job. He started volunteering for them. They liked him so much, they took him on.
I couldn't get any training, I couldn't get any help, and I felt the only way that I could actually get any help or any support was doing it off my own back, and that was to start volunteering and start showing what I was capable of doing and that I was capable of actually still doing something. And it also helped my self-esteem as well. Being out of work for as long as I was, you kind of you feel redundant and kind of useless.
The charity has several shops and offices around Walsall and gets its money from government, European and lottery grants.
We've been very fortunate here because the lottery have just given us a grant of £480,000, which will help fund this place for the next couple of years.
But 2 of their shops have to close unless they get more funding. They hope they can still provide the service they do with mobile offices. There are jobs, and there are people who want the jobs, but they might not be skilled enough.
The Black Country and the West Midlands region as a whole, we're net exporters. We're better than the rest of the country, so things are looking very bright in the Black Country. What we need to address is the deficiency between the skills and the jobs being created, and that's got to be our focus.
And as David knows, finding a job is life-changing.
I've not become more of a recluse like I was when I was out of work. I've been a more outgoing and more confident person.
Mark Goff, ITV News, Walsall.
Now, there can't be many families that haven't experienced conflict at meal times. Frustrated parents trying to persuade fussy children to eat what's put in front of them. I imagine that's happening as we speak.
Yes, it's extraordinary this, because a report out today reveals that in the Midlands, 96% of parents admit to having to prepare a different meal to that of the rest of the family, while 65% worry that their child's fussy eating habits mean they're not getting the nutrition they need.
1 in 4 feel powerless to do anything about their child's fussy habits. David Wood reports.
Every night at this Birmingham house there are arguments about what's for dinner, and more than half of parents admit to being frustrated by their children's fussiness. 7-year-old Isla used to eat well, but now only has pizza, fish fingers, pasta and chicken nuggets, staying well away from vegetables.
Mummy and Daddy would be eating something like fish, and I don't really like fish, so I'd probably get chicken nuggets or chips. Some of the textures that I taste are a bit strong, and I don't really like that strong flavours.
And Isla's mother Iona is one of many concerned their children aren't getting the nutrients they need. She tried to convince her daughter to try new food and learn what's good for her, but it doesn't work.
I think Isla sees that there's a benefit in sharing the food, so it's definitely getting a little bit better, but it's very small steps. But I realised a long time ago with Isla, you don't push, because if you push you're just going to end up in a dead end. So we try to relax about it as much as possible and be subtly encouraging.
A third of parents questioned in this survey say their children's eating habits mean the whole family limit what they eat, and many resort to fast food or bribery. But clinical psychologists say parents shouldn't worry, and the cycle can be broken.
It might be that actually they are getting enough to eat, even if there are particular days when they're not eating enough, and to time their snacks and meals to ensure they're as hungry as possible when it comes to mealtime, to make them more likely to try new food. It's also about trying to, not ignoring the problem, but trying to focus on positive eating behaviours, so staying seated, table manners, rather than focusing on the fussy eating.
So the arguments won't go on forever, but it doesn't stop many worrying about their children's fussiness. David Wood, ITV News.
My mum used to say to me, that's all you're getting, so
well,
if you don't eat it, that's
it was
that.
The same, you know, eat what you're given.
Yes, exactly.
Actually, most of, I think a lot of our audience agree with that, because you've been sharing your thoughts with us, and Sue Cook from Whitmore in Staffordshire says, cook one meal for the family and they either eat it or go without.
Right. Daniel Pratt from Worcester says, if they don't like it after trying for the first time, I don't make a big deal of it. I'll introduce it to them again in a few weeks, and on the second attempt they will like it. Very patient.
And Sarah Jordan from Derby says, kids are very clever and know that we panic because they're not eating, etc. They won't starve themselves. Be firm.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who got in touch.
They'll always
with
eat
us.
chocolate, won't they?
Now, this next item needs your full attention because it might be about you without you even realising it. An appeal has gone out to find the owner of a large collection of family photos.
It seems they may have been left by mistake at a charity shop in Birmingham just before Christmas, but their owner and the people in the pictures still remain a mystery. Andy Bevan has the story.
Is this your family? Do you remember that holiday in Weston-super-Mare? Are these your great-grandparents? Or can you recall meeting Santa in 1953? This collection of photographs tells many stories, but so far no one knows whose. They were inside a shoebox brought in with half a dozen others to the Acorns Hospice charity shop at Castle Bromwich in Birmingham. The job of sorting them fell to Deputy Manager Rachel Quinney.
Well, obviously I went through the boxes, there was all shoes, and then I came to this box which was full of photos. We kept it back just in case it was a mistake, but nobody has turned up.
There are dozens of family snaps here, holiday pictures, wedding portfolios, birthdays, individual portraits, some professionally produced as postcards but never sent.
Staff here have managed to work out that the photographs range in age from the 1900s to about the 1950s, but there could be several generations and several different families. They just don't know.
Some clues have emerged. This 1922 letter of recommendation from Bodenham Manor in Hereford mentions one William Cater, who worked as a chauffeur for the owners, the French Davis family. There's also a rent book from 1958 bearing the same name.
It's exciting because this is actually somebody's life. Hopefully we'll keep them here, somewhere safe, and somebody will be in touch.
So take another look, a close one. Were these your loved ones? If they are, get in touch with Acorns and they'll see to it that you're reunited with your past, and then you can make sure these memories are kept a little safer in future. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
So, can you help solve this mystery? Are they your photos? There are more details, more pictures on our website.
Right now though, let's get the weather forecast with Carl Edwards.
Hello there, good evening. Well, a generally quiet day on the weather front when you compare it to recent weather events. Some good, decent, dry and sunny spells for many of us with some scattered showers thrown in too. And it's a pretty quiet night overnight on the whole. We've got some temperatures dropping, mist and fog patches forming and some good clear spells too. So that's how things are during darkness. But in the early hours and just before dawn, what we'll see is a band of rain coming in from the west, bringing some heavy showers. Now, in those showers, they could get a little bit wintry. We could see some sleet at lower levels, but the good news is it will push off pretty quickly, but we are looking like a morning of a mixture of sunshine and showers. In the afternoon, it's not looking too bad at all, actually. That's when things do improve. We're generally going to see plenty of bright bursts pushing through any clouds. Still the chance of a shower here and there across the region, but not looking bad on the whole. So make the most of tomorrow, because I'm afraid Friday is not looking very good at all. We've got another band of rain pushing in, bringing some heavy rain, I'm afraid. Now, of course, heavy rain isn't unusual for this time of year, but it could cause a few problems for us based on the fact that if we get 15 to 20 millimetres of rain, as we're expecting, then it could cause a few problems on what is some extremely saturated ground. Make the most of Saturday. That's the best day of the weekend.
Looking forward to the weekend, but it's only Wednesday, isn't it? Now, a reminder of the headlines in ITV News Central. A report into the actions of a Cannock Chase Tory MP who organised a Nazi-themed stag party for a friend has concluded his actions were offensive and foolish, but not racist. Aidan Burley was sacked from his government aid post, but is still a Member of Parliament.
Former Aston Villa footballer Stan Collymore has accused Twitter of not doing enough to stop abusive tweets after he was targeted by internet trolls.
And anti-HS2 campaigners have lost their latest fight to stop it being built. They went to the Supreme Court claiming the government's actions were contrary to EU law.
And there's plenty more on our website too, including the campaign to see the softer side of staffers. itv.com/central is the address. We've got one of those in our family and they are
wonderful
gorgeous.
dogs. Yes, they are indeed. That's it from me and from Lucy. See you tomorrow at 6. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.